Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
I finished these fights.
Give me a hell yeah. Top Rope Nation.
Learn to love it. It's the best thing going today.
Good evening, wrestling fans. It's episode 263 of Top Rope Nation. The first time we've been on the air in the month of August, technically, for a flagship podcast. We did a classic show for Patreon last week looking at Stampede, Canadian Stampede 97, but we haven't been on the flagship show since our SummerSlam review on July 31st. So we're checking in. It's Thursday night. The Field of Dreams game is going on about an hour to the east of me right now. Got that on the television next to me. And I am joined, by the way, I'm Ryan Drosty, and I'm joined by none other than Justin Joint and Kyle Ross. Justin, how was your Thursday night going?
Well, it's about to get a lot better because I have a dear friend who is generous of spirit, and he let me take one of his very own Broken Skull IPAs. I have never had one, so I'm going to crack it open and try it for the first time right now.
Oh, yeah. That was me. There you go.
Cheers, boys.
Yeah, picked that up in Chicago for you. Very nice. Kyle Ross, what do you got in your Dallas Cowboys mug there?
Coffee. Nothing like drinking coffee at 9:30 Eastern time.
Good God, man. Are you going to sleep tonight?
Who knows? I was dragging ass about like an hour, 2 hours ago. It was the wife was out at some political event, and I had both kids, and I was walking around and like
Trump rally, of course.
Yes, it was. She was storming the Capitol too. I believe Mrs. Jericho looked lovely, I'm told. But no, I was dragging ass. So threw a little coffee in here. Get fired up for the program. Fire off some takes. I got things to say.
Yeah, we're gonna hit on a ton of topics tonight. Field of Dreams. I got a tie-in for Field of Dreams. We're going to start off with here in just a second. We're going to talk about
clue what I'm going to say about that, though.
I gave him a heads up on the question. WWE, AEW, some late breaking news on AEW as well that I'm going to hit on as well, and maybe get some of you involved in the chat room. So if you're joining us live, like I see our friend Alan, patron of the show, is here. Let us know your thoughts on all of these topics as we go. And of course, if you're joining us on the podcast feed tomorrow morning, that being Friday, please hit subscribe, help us out, leave us a 5-star rating, leave us a written review. All those things do so much to help our growth. And if you're on YouTube, subscribe, like this video, comment, and turn those notifications on so that when you're subscribed, you get a little notification every single time we go live, so you never miss a live show. And you are also seeing across the bottom of your screen the names of our lovely patrons. And we thank each and every one of them for their support. We're up to 38 now. We are 2 short of our goal for me to release my 20-year-old unheard interview with Bobby the Brain Heenan when we hit 40 patrons. That's going to be coming out. Oh, and by the way, if you guys didn't see this in the Facebook group the other day, I've had 3 Top Rope Nation shirts just taking up space in my office for almost a damn year, you guys. And I finally said, I need to just give these things away. So I got 2 size large, 1 size medium. It's the blue Top Rope Nation shirt. By the way, let me just show it on air. Got it right here next to me. It's this one right here. We all have this one. Justin's even wearing it. Look at that product placement.
Wow.
If you want this shirt, join the Patreon page for $5, get all of our bonus content, and I'll send you that shirt in the mail for free if you're a size large or a size medium. So sign up, hit us up in the email. There's like an email system on Patreon. Let me know when you join, and I'll send it to you free of charge. There you go. $5 gets you all the bonus content and a free t-shirt. So if you've been kind of on the edge about joining, thinking about it, there you go. I'm going to push you right over the edge with that free t-shirt offer. So
living on the edge.
Yes, hit me up. Let me know and come join the Patreon page. All kinds of good stuff going on. We talked about, we're always talking every single week on this show about these watch parties we do over on Playback, which are so much fun. And I was just told tonight by Playback that you can now stream the Peacock service on Playback. And I'm thinking we might have to do like a watch party with some classic pro wrestling. If you're interested, course, we'll post the link on Patreon or join the Facebook group. That's free, of course, in the podcast description or the video description. We've got a conversation going on right there, right now, about doing some of these classic wrestling watch parties. You guys could join us. Be a lot of fun, I think. So
wasn't on my
Watch your
format
cock.
sheet, Tony.
here you go. Alan Awesome check in. He's wearing his shirt right now that I just had him sent in the last week. He won our quarterly drawing for the $10 tier patrons. Every 3 months, I do a drawing for a free shirt, and Alan won that drawing. So congrats, Alan. I think he's going to be wearing it to Dynamite in about a month, he said. Philip checking in the chat. He wants some free merchandise. There you go. So yeah, now let's get to the topics tonight. All right, let's not waste any more time. Field of Dreams game, as I said, it's going on right now out in Dyersville, Iowa, about an hour away from Justin and I. haven't been there in years, probably 15 years. Justin, when's the last time you were at the Field of Dreams?
About a month ago.
Well, there you go. You beat me. I need to take my children there. But I haven't been able to get tickets to either of these MLB games that they've had the last 2 years. Would have liked to have seen my Cubs play tonight. Unfortunately, the tickets are like $300 to $400, and you have to win a lottery just to have a chance to buy them, to be an Iowa citizen to do that. Or you can buy them resale for like $800, $900 a piece. So most of the people at that game are very wealthy, but it's a cool thing nonetheless. It looks great on TV. It's a cool thing for our state. And as I was watching this, I was thinking, what would be the pro wrestling equivalent of a Field of Dreams game? So, you watch this game and what they're doing in this kind of like old timey feel, the hand scoreboard, people are dressed up in old clothes that are working at the venue, all kinds of stuff. And, that's a callback to the era that's represented in the Hollywood movie with Kevin Costner. So if you were to do like a throwback wrestling event, i.e. a Field of Dreams wrestling event, what would the venue be for that event? Justin, let me throw it to you first. What would your venue choice be for a Field of Dreams game like wrestling event?
Well, if we want it to feel like pre Vince McMahon, it would just be a smoke-filled bar, right? You could just do that. I think
Before he invented the big deal. Yeah.
I think the question is, do you look at is it just somewhere unique and interesting looking, like, probably a countless number of fields, baseball fields that it could be done at? I think like something with a nice cityscape would be good. I can't think of anything specific. I'm sure there's been wrestling events at Wrigley before, right?
Oh yeah, probably. I mean, they used to do them at Comiskey back in the day, but I would imagine so.
So yeah, I'm thinking either something like that, or obviously Field of Dreams is from a movie. So I don't know if you just go to that last venue from The Wrestler. Not that that's near and dear to many people's hearts.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think something cool would be like just go to like back to Panama City for a show, for like those old WCW ones.
Oh yeah, yeah, man. The spring break shows they used to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like the NWA ran Chicago in the 50s. I just Googled it. So at Wrigley Field. So they have held pro wrestling there before. What about you, Kyle? What do you think?
Well, my question was, does it have to be a building that's still standing? Are we?
Could you recreate it? Yeah.
Because your next question is going to be somewhat. We have to lift the suspension of belief. So I'm just saying, are we just because to me, I don't know. If you want it to be in a classic venue, there's a lot of like old school places to do it at. You could do the Sportatorium in Dallas. You could do Allentown, where WWE used to do their tapings all the time. Oh God, why am I blanking on the tapings?
Cow Palace.
Why am I blanking at the tapings where they used to do championship wrestling at all the time? It was in New York. Why am I blanking?
Yeah.
Hold on.
Sure.
Well, I can't look at the name, but you know what I'm saying. Like where Orndorff, like the place where Orndorff pile drove Hogan, and they ran the taping. They did the tapings all the time. You could do it there. Boston, old school Boston Garden with like the parquet out there. That always looked cool. And you'd see like at the house shows, you'd see the Celtics and the Bruins flags.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like to me, I would like probably want to do it at somewhere that is synonymous with wrestling, if that's not cheating.
Yeah, the Cow Palace was the first one that came to my mind. like the old pavilion in Calgary, the Sportatorium. Yeah, all of those, I think. And then I like the outdoor feel too, like Justin said, with the cityscape behind it. Because as I said, they used to do wrestling at baseball fields all the time back in the day. I mean, they still do occasionally, but that would be a cool venue. The next question was, all right, so now you're thinking of the movie where you've got the 1919 White Sox, coming back, who were famously banned from baseball. Now, these people don't have to have been banned from pro wrestling, but now let's imagine Field of Dreams is a movie. Who would you bring back? Like, who would be your ghost wrestlers to come back to wrestle one last time, one last match, to come down to the ring? People that are now deceased.
Well,
Justin,
as you alluded to, in the movie, it was disgraced players, and unfortunately, with professional wrestling, either if you're disgraced, you're either it's justified. or B, it's not enough for you not to come back at some point.
Yes.
But the first name that came to my head was Pillman. Just trying to think of somebody whose career was cut short. Obviously there's Owen Hart, but I could see him coming through the fields like, oh fuck, I can't get away from this goddamn sports entertainment.
What about you, Kyle?
Someone that's decided. Randy Savage played baseball. Yep. There's a tie-in.
Oh, there we go. All right.
I don't know who else. Bruno.
Yeah. They don't have to have been disgraced. I guess, people who are deceased that you would like to see wrestle one last match.
Is Ric Flair dead yet? Let me refresh Twitter here. I saw he got a birthday cake. I don't know what's going on. Oh, no, he's not
dead. This freaking guy, man. He's not dead yet, I wish I didn't say that was my last match, he says. Yeah. Oh, he'll get in the ring again. Just watch. Okay. Anybody else?
I kind of want Judo Gene LaBelle to come back to life. I know we just recently lost him, just so he could tell me personally more about that Steven Seagal story I read on Twitter.
Shook that man's hand one time. Seagal? No, I didn't read that.
Oh,
no, Gene LaBelle.
So Seagal, I always thought he was so tough and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And Judo Gene LaBelle, I forget what Seagal movie it was, but he choked him out. During the taping of it, Seagal would deny it, until the cows came home. But apparently, many people have corroborated it. Yeah.
Wow.
Did you guys shout out the Von Erichs? Okay. Yes.
Seeing that in the chat, Philip had that in the chat.
Because that's if you build it, they will come. You rebuild the Sportatorium, and Von Erichs can show up.
Oh God, imagine that.
I'm surprised Fritz Von Erich didn't use that as a gimmick at 85. Sounds like something he would have done to pop one last house.
That's a great image though. If you could recreate that in a movie, the Sportatorium is brought back to life, and all the Von Erich boys come out. Of course, so much tragedy in that family. It'd be quite the scene. Yeah, I was thinking Owen Hart, Pillman, the same, Randy Savage, Andre, of course, Piper. I mean, there's so many. Eddie Guerrero, of course. There's so many in pro wrestling, and go ahead, Kyle.
I was gonna say just to tie up some loose ends here. I have two to tie up. For those, it was Out for Justice was the Seagal film where apparently that happened, where he was choked out by Judo Gene LaBelle, and that was also it was the Mid Hudson Civic Center. I didn't want to be wrong, but that's what it was. Yeah. WWE in Poughkeepsie.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, there is so many, but I was going to say WWE has kind of tried to do. They've done the Raw throwbacks, I guess, is kind of a similar thing where they bring back old guys, the old set, or a version of the old set, kind of the old ring ropes, the red, white, blue ring ropes and stuff. But
when they do it, it's shitty though.
It is shitty when they do it. So yeah, Adam said in the chat, the Olympic Auditorium in Los Angeles. How about there you go.
The Shreveport Boys and Girls Club, where they tape Mid-South all the time.
Yeah. There you go. I wonder if that's still standing.
I love the story that when there was the fair going on outside, you guys, anyone who's read Duggan's book knows this story, but that it was the night that Duggan hid in the gorilla suit and JYD lost a loser leaves town match. Well, Bill Watts, who had such a hard on for these things, was convinced that if people just saw this random gorilla show up around ringside, they're like, oh, this is going to be a work. We know someone's hiding in there. So he made Duggan go in the gorilla suit and hang out at the fair all day outside. That was going on.
It's amazing. It's so good. Classic. All right. I thought as a tie-in with the Field of Dreams game going on, being from Iowa, Justin and I, it'd be kind of a interesting, creative little discussion there. So there's
Do the Cubs have 5 runs yet?
It's 4-0 right now.
Damn it.
Wasn't
Bottom
there
of
a goofy, lame baseball player gimmick that WWF did in the mid 90s?
Yeah. What was his name?
MVP
Yeah.
and Abe Knuckleball Schwartz. They
That's what I was
switched
thinking of.
Yeah.
Okay. There you go.
What about remember those commercials where Randy Savage was willing to play catch with children because WWE there is no off? Yeah. That was fucking shameful.
Oh, 94. Yep. Who will ever forget? All right, let's move on. Let's move on to current pro wrestling. Someone very much alive once again, coming back from injury. CM Punk appeared at the end of AEW Dynamite, the Quake by the Lake in Minneapolis last night. They kept that one real close to the vest. Nobody reported that he was there at all. I kind of had thought maybe we get a Kenny Omega appearance because that was the site of his last match. Looks like we're 1 week off from that. Looks like he's going to be there in West Virginia next week if television's any indication. But we did get CM Punk at the conclusion of the show. And no reports, as I said. Fightful Select didn't have it. Wrestling Observer didn't have it. Nobody had it. PW Insider didn't have it. Apparently, there was a restricted access area backstage at the Target Center in Minneapolis where Townley couldn't go all day. And Punk played it close to the vest, too. And I guess that's where he was hanging out. So nobody, the word could not leak. So I just wanted to start by asking you your thoughts on the main event between Jon Moxley and the Lionheart Chris Jericho, and your excitement level with CM Punk back. Kyle?
A couple things. So people had been reporting that he was in a walking boot. Where was he at? Like the San Diego Comic-Con or something like that?
Yes.
Last week? Okay. But like somebody said at one point they spotted him without one. A walking boot, but yeah, like you said, nobody knew for sure he was coming. It was spoiled for me because I was watching on a delay, and I don't know if you guys do this, but I always like have Twitter open. I'll have like a certain like account or something maybe open to see what people were saying. And I scroll up, but not too far because I don't want to spoil myself. Well, I accidentally scrolled up too far and saw. I was like, "Fuck!" Well, I guess he's coming back. But this return was so good that even though I knew it was coming, it popped me, and I've watched it like multiple times back. It was just outstanding, and there's an immediate energy brought back to this promotion as a result.
Yeah, we're finally getting some of these names coming back now. Punk this week, Omega next week. I mean, yeah, we got Danielson back now, of course. Justin Joint, your thoughts?
Yeah, I was stunned. Like you, I was kind of expecting Omega, but at that point in the night, I certainly wasn't. It felt like the opportunity for that had passed. I loved the match between Moxley and Jericho. In fact, the only thing I am still kind of unsure about at this point was the whole Lionheart gimmick part of it, because I like that aspect of it. It just didn't seem to fit in this point in time. Like, that's a very babyface gimmick, so why not do that when Jericho was a full-blown babyface? So now that he's a heel, and not by any means did I not enjoy the blood, because I always enjoy the blood, but it's not like that was a big part of his Lionheart character either.
Yeah.
So yeah, then you get to the surprise. I was shocked, and honestly, the highlight was for me was the way Moxley geared up for the face-off, because it's like, normally the guy will have his back turned, and then he turns around, he's shocked that his future opponent is standing there, but he didn't play it like that. He knew who was behind him right away, slung the title over his shoulder, turned around. We had that great face-to-face with the blood still running from Moxley's ear, and yeah, it was incredible. Great moment.
And it's a good thing that he played it that way, because you had Jim Ross on commentary saying, yeah, you know who's behind you. Come on.
Oh, geez. I didn't catch that.
Hello.
Yeah. I like the little detail where they showed him kind of sitting on the mat, and Blackpool Combat Club was outside the ring, and he kind of like told him to stay away. That was cool. Like he didn't need him, and then they had the face off at the end. Of course, flipping him off. It was, yeah, fantastic. I loved it. I didn't have it spoiled per se. Friend of the pod, Jesse Velasquez, he was there, and he sent me a text afterwards that said something along the lines of, "I might have to get a cheap plane ticket to Chicago." So when he sent me that, I'm like, all right, something big happened. And so I figured it was probably Punk, but I didn't know for sure. And then I just put down my phone because I was watching on delay too. I saw the first hour live, put the kids down to bed, and then I was watching the rest kind of on delay. And so yeah, I didn't look again, but that was kind of what I thought it would be. Yeah.
I mentioned this on Facebook. The way the Jericho Appreciation Society fed Punk was like perfect. It should be studied by all heels in this business. I mean, particularly Angelo Parker, the bump he took, and then you had Garcia, and then Sammy leaps over the rope, so it's like even more special. Punk discards him. Hager, who's usually worthless, Punk was able to get rid of him, and then Jericho did the thing too. So he cleared all 5. Punk looked like a total badass. Crowd was going crazy for him. Aside from that joke I made about JR a few moments ago, he was actually good once Punk returned. I think my God, that's what you pay Jim Ross, why you still pay him to be out there. I mean, I thought for the most part it was a pretty dreadful night for JR, but yeah, it couldn't have been better. And I'll get to the main event in a minute, but first I got to say this. Quake by the Lake, JR noted it was rumbling. He said it felt like it was rumbling under his feet. Tony Khan with another great name. There truly was an earthquake going on. It was the Quake by the Lake.
Yeah. So this the unification match at All Out. This was the hope by AEW this whole time is that he would be back by then.
Oh, so I was going to have that be a lead in and say when they make their Iowa debut. I want the show to be called Rumble in the Jungle. So you guys for like 2 months could say how there's no jungles in Iowa, but then the main event will be this like fucking 30-minute bloodbath. And then the joke will be on you.
Yeah. I don't know that they're ever going to come here. We'll see. Maybe eventually Des Moines gets like a TV taping or something, but I think we're going to be driving to see, which I can't complain too much. They have a lot of shows within a pretty brief drive from here, 3 to 4 hours. So I'll be there at All Out, speaking of that, and I'll be there with some friends of ours.
They're going to be here in a couple weeks, 2 weeks. They're going to be here in Cleveland.
You're going to be there for that, most likely. And so we got the unification match. They didn't know for sure if it would happen. They were very, very hopeful that Punk would be back by then. You can go back in the archives. Right after he had the surgery, I said on the pod that like 6 to 8 weeks was what I was hearing. And that lines up perfectly with where he's at right now. And I think I even said at the time that, he gets cleared in early August. Obviously, you hold him off. You don't want to bring him back too quickly. If he's cleared in early August, give him that extra month to get ready for the pay-per-view. That's what they're going to do. And I mean, what's your excitement level for this? We talked a lot about, was Moxley the guy to make interim champion or not? Now here we are. He's going to be the champion. This is going to be the main event there in suburban Chicago. So you're going to be watching pay-per-view, Justin. What do you think of this match now?
I think this is the right call. I can still sometimes be a little lukewarm on Jon Moxley, but this has been a pretty incredible title run he's had. And, he's a former champ, so that legitimizes even that much more, having that interim label slapped on him. So, when you think about some of their other options, this was definitely the best way that could have gone. And, thank God Punk was able to get back in time for All Out. It's gonna make for a really interesting crowd reaction in Chicago because Moxley is certainly beloved.
Yeah. I think it'll be heavy Punk just because it's Chicago. If it was anywhere else, that would be really, really interesting. I mean, true 50-50.
And because he's been off TV. I mean, again, going back to what I said, that immediate energy Punk brought back, because I was a little worried, to be honest with you, about a couple things. One, to backtrack to what Justin said a few moments ago, like Omega, it was obvious that they telegraphed what Omega's role is probably going to be at All Out in the trios tournament, right? So once they did that, you're like, okay, well, that's Omega's probable direction for All Out. And in my head, I'm watching, I'm like, fuck, if Punk doesn't come back, like, what's the main event for All Out going to be? I was like, Jesus. Like, are they going to like shoot an angle tonight where like Jericho gets a rematch or something? I'm like, that doesn't seem too inspiring.
Oh God.
But I mean, because seriously, I guess it's worthless to speculate on it now, but what else was there?
The play, and they kind of ruined it by announcing it beforehand with Kingston and Guevara being a pay-per-view match, because I think that's your only other option if Punk wasn't able to come back, because you got to do Moxley and Kingston.
Yeah, unless you brought MJF back.
Yeah. I mean,
that's true.
It would. Yeah, it just. But look, the excitement level is good. As you know, Justin, I'm glad you just brought up Kingston's name, because we've talked about on this show, was Moxley the right guy for the interim champion? Would Kingston, a new guy, someone who hasn't held the title, been more interesting? Maybe, but you also made the point, and it's one that I would agree with. Moxley has been outstanding as the interim champ. Now, I know JR, Jesus Christ, this guy. Oh, I'm not too keen on this interim champion. What are you doing? The other announcers went ape. Did you catch that? The other announcers went ape shit at him. They're like, because, maybe they knew, but they're like, motherfucker, you're killing our pay-per-view main event. What are you saying? Even if you feel that way, you don't say that on national television.
Right.
But I think what's cool is it could go either way. And AEW usually does it. I still feel with the 4 pay-per-views a year or whatever, I would love for them to announce a pay-per-view main event early and hype the shit out of it for weeks. Old school, make me just yearn for it. They don't do that. They kind of wait as long as possible, a few weeks out, but then every time it seems we're like, oh shit, who's going to win this? This is a great main event. And there's probably arguments for both. I think it's interesting, and I want to hear from you guys on this, that was there, since Punk is just coming right back, okay, was there an actual need for an interim champion? Is this the best possible storyline for All Out, where, okay, Punk won it at the last pay-per-view, but he got hurt right away. And this is the guy who became our interim champion, and okay, next pay-per-view, they're wrestling. I mean, was there a better idea to take Punk out of the equation and have a main event with someone than doing an interim champion? Because JR's not too warm on it.
I was never a huge fan of it. I said that right at the very beginning. I think it would have been fine to have your world champion. They could have done an injury angle, whatever, take him out of it. They could put more focus on the other belts. It's not like there's a lack of belts on television. Wardlow, he's starting to heat up a little bit now, but right around the time that Punk was injured, he lost so much steam, right away. His path to the TNT title, they could have made that, kind of the big championship on TV while he was away. They just had the Mid-Atlantic Championship unveiled as well. We know now they got the trios title. They could have maybe introduced that earlier. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, but the key is, okay, Punk, if you keep the world title on him and don't have the interim world champion, and he's coming back for All Out, what's the angle for his return in the main event then if you don't do an interim champion? Because I think like in the old days, what they do is they would write him off with an injury angle.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they can't do that because they don't want to they're not gonna be like freaking they fly Dynamite Kid in fucking traction halfway across the country just so he can fall over outside the ring because we're like, hey, we need you to lose the time. They don't do that anymore, and that's smart. So outside of doing like a big injury angle, this probably was the best move, I think. Just have it, because like Moxley's been on a big run, and now, like you said, Justin, he's been the champion before. It feels like you've got 2 champions being. This actually couldn't have worked better with the interim thing, which I'm not that warm on either, Ryan, and Jim Ross. But I think this kind of couldn't have worked any better right now. It feels like a really hot match.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's only going to get hotter the next couple of weeks. I have all the faith in the world that they're going to build this match up to be even better. Because this, like you were saying, a lot of times we've sat here and we've said, God, what's the direction for this pay-per-view? We're 3-4 weeks away. We got nothing on board. Then all of a sudden, those last couple of weeks, they get us super excited. And, we got the couple of weeks now. We got, 3 4 weeks. And so, yeah, I think the excitement's only going to grow. I agree with you. It works out now, but they could have certainly done to write him off with an injury angle, and they could have kept him on television, throughout from home, and they could have followed his recovery where like they would have been honest about his recovery time from the onset, 6 to 8 weeks or whatever. I'm going to be back for All Out. Think about, not exactly the same thing, but like what WWF did when they followed Triple H back from the quad. They would check in on him, that kind of thing. They're checking in on your world champion. He would give some great promos on these taped interviews from home, I'm sure, and from the gym, from the doctor. And that would get you hyped for his eventual return and to get revenge on whoever injured him, whoever that would have been that they would have wrote into that situation. So that could have worked.
There is an X factor here, and since they did play it so close to the vest, we don't know. But there probably was some doubt: can he be back for All Out?
Mm-hmm.
That's the other thing too. Yes, it's worked out. He's going to be back. He's going to work Moxley, but maybe that wasn't 100%. If that's the case, okay, I can see you creating the need for an interim champion. But again, I mean, you didn't need to. They didn't strip him. I mean, I think when you have a popular champion, there's no need to strip him. But in terms of him wrestling someone in an angle, I think, okay, hey, Moxley going on this big run was as good as any other option, because I don't know what other option there was for Punk.
Mm-mm. Thoughts, Justin?
No, I think you guys have laid it out pretty well. This is, to me, I haven't had near of a problem with the interim championship, and I think this is played out pretty perfectly.
Does this match feel bigger than Punk and Page? I know it's kind of early to say that.
Yeah, I think so.
Because Moxley's been a better babyface champion than Hangman Page was.
They've treated him like a better babyface champion. It feels like he's been featured more than Hangman ever was. Hangman had the shadow of Punk, and not only Punk, but like waiting for Moxley to come back, and Bryan's ascension as an AEW superstar. He just had so much to overcome, whereas like the spotlight has been shining bright on Moxley the entire time.
Feuding with Adam Cole didn't help.
Yeah.
Adam Paul, not Adam Cole, almost said Adam Cole. Adam Paul on Facebook, he said, "What's the long run going with the Punk versus Moxley match? Does the winner have a long run until the MGF deal is settled?" And I thought Jesse and I had a really good discussion on this. So I did Jesse's podcast, Wrestling Unplugged and Undeniable, last week. Good friend of the pod. Check it out. And we talked about this. He asked me, like, how do you bring back MJF? And we were kind of fantasy booking it. And first of all, I said, whenever MJF comes back, you pretty much have to insert him right into the world title picture, I think, because, he can't go for an underneath title. He can't go back into, feuding with Wardlow. It's like, where else does it make sense? And the way that he left, getting cheered in that promo, he still tried to heel on the crowd in LA, but he was getting cheered and he stole the show with all that. When he comes back, he's probably going to get cheered unless it happened in Chicago. And I want to see what you guys think about this, because what I said on Jesse's show is, if he's coming back, like I would, and you want him to go right away into the world title, depending on when you would want to do the match, whether that is Grand Slam or down the road at Full Gear or whatever, if they wanted to do it sooner rather than later, I think you're looking at how last year at All Out, they did the big angles at the close with the two debuts, with Bryan and Adam Cole. If you imagine Punk wins the match and then you bring out MJF, and MJF has this face off with Punk in Chicago, it's probably one of the only buildings in the world where Punk would for sure get cheered over MJF, because I do think when he comes back, he's going to get cheered everywhere else. But if he came out to go face to face with CM Punk in Chicago, I feel like he would get booed. And he could bring up, he's going for he wants a world title shot, and he could mention he beat CM Punk right here in this same city on Dynamite, different venue, downtown, but still in Chicago. And he wants a shot at the world title. He could talk, same kind of stuff. He carried this company. He's been gone. The company's been dying ever since he's been gone, whatever. But I think that would be a great way for him to come back. But I don't really have I don't have a lot of other ideas on how you bring back MJF. What do you think, Kyle?
I would slightly alter that. My thought
Okay.
was the same thing. What I would do is, okay, let's say Punk wins a bloody war. It's a John Moxley match. There's going to be blood. There will be blood,
Yes.
as they've said.
Yes.
Maybe Daniel Day-Lewis can be the special guest referee. But, he wins. He's posing. Show's wrapping up. All right, folks, we'll see you. MJF comes out of the crowd, just attacks him like with a baseball bat. And it feels more like, I think if he comes out with like to his music or something, and it's like a fit, like that doesn't fit the angle. Like he should kind of come out like he's an outsider. My God, I thought this man quit. And if he just beats, and then to your point about getting a heel reaction, if he like just beats this guy down who just had this killer match, throw Chicago, the fact it's in Chicago in the mix, he's gonna probably get a heel reaction. There's gonna be some people who cheer because the nature of wrestling in 2022 is when people make returns, they get cheered.
Yeah.
If they're a star. It'll be interesting. One would assume when Punk won the title Double or Nothing, the plan was a long-term run, right?
Yeah, this came up with Jesse too. I think when he comes back, I don't think it's going to be a long run. He lost those months, but what can you do? Because I think MJF, if he does go into an MJF feud, MJF has to win it. I feel.
Well, then do you just hold off the MJF thing?
Well, that's the other thing.
Yeah, that's my thought. Either way you look at it, whoever wins this match at All Out has got to hold the title for, to me, a decent amount of time to legitimize the reign that much more, especially if it's Punk, because he didn't really, get to defend the title at all.
And then there's the issue, well, what do you do when he loses it with Punk? Because if you're going to give MJF a long run, what does CM Punk do? So, yeah, I mean, I could see. Okay, well, who could Punk feud with then if it's not MJF for the next pay-per-view cycle? I mean, this is kind of an issue actually with AEW where it feels like they don't.
It's more options for a heel MJF. Be honest with you, especially with people coming back. Like Kenny's coming back, he's going to be babyface when he comes back. He's going to get cheered.
Oh, well, there you go. There, you just said it. See, they've never done CM Punk and Kenny Omega.
I mean, I guess they could do face with those two.
Yeah, although is it gonna fit? I don't know.
Well, that and kind of in the same boat is, I mean, you have a returning Omega lose a big match right off the bat.
I just don't. I honestly don't feel like he has to have a long reign. I know it sucks he got injured, and we're gonna have the Summer of Punk and all that. But I got to think too, this company plans their champions out well in advance. And so like if they, he might have been figuring Tony Khan, especially knowing what was going to happen with MJF, maybe, and having an idea that they could, we don't know the whole story there yet, but a lot of this feels like it's a work. I know MJF wants to get paid more. That part's legit and stuff, but
we all do.
He could, he could have been thinking like, all right, Full Gear is gonna, maybe have Punk hold the title for Full Gear, not knowing that he was gonna miss out on 3 months during the middle of that title reign. But like you just said, Kyle, you get in a situation where, all right, who's he go to next? Who's he retain over to keep that title reign running? And that's why I said at the very beginning of this, it depends on when they would do the match. If MJF is going to be the opponent for Full Gear, then you wouldn't bring him back at Chicago. You'd wait a while still. But if they wanted to do it earlier, for one of those bigger dynamites, like in New York or something, then you would do it there at All Out. I don't know. I mean, it's all speculative. I just thought it was an interesting topic that we had talked about on Jesse's pod, and I want to get you guys' take on it. But it's tough, but they have good options.
No, I think the key in what we know is MJF eventually feels like he's going to get the title. It's just a question of, what and I'm assuming they do have a plan, because we all anticipate that he is coming back, that there was a large degree of working there. So I don't know. I mean, that's, I trust that process a lot more than fucking Dexter Loomis. Oh, I know that.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on Dynamite, I guess, really quick before we get to the WWE stuff? I mean, overall, I thought it was pretty strong show. Go ahead.
it was a show. You know, when I watch AEW, and not to be overly negative, I thought it was a great show. I thought it was one of their best shows in a long time because of the Punk return. But I feel like every segment there's something that shouldn't happen. They need a little more quality control on their television. Like, an example, I love Darby and Brody. I'm like, God, is this a hot opener? Just two guys just freaking trying to hurt each other. The way that interference was, it kind of dragged out and it kind of killed the heat of the match. I thought the tag went a little long. I like Daniel Garcia's promo, and then like Anna Jay does that like cartoonish thing, like, hey, you over there. And like that was like awful. And then there was like
so
the Jade
bad.
Cargill match went too long, like through a break. So I feel, it's an ambitious promotion and I admire them. There's a lot of ideas in AEW. I almost feel like there's too many ideas they try to jam into one segment, one to show in 1 week of television. Whereas WWE, which we'll get into, there's probably not enough ideas for all the hours of TV they have. It's, I actually had that conversation with somebody in the business about 6 months ago. It was pretty interesting. That, WWE TV could be obviously stale, boring. They need to do more, and AEW maybe needs to let it sink in a little bit, talk about what we just saw.
Yeah. I mean, to your point on the negatives on the show, I agree with a lot of what you said. I think the Anna Jay stuff they're going to probably give her time to grow into this, but she just overacts everything so bad.
She should be a valet.
She should not be doing
She's
that.
fine.
Should not be
She's fine
doing
in
it.
that role. Okay, I mean, it's a compliment. It's a good-looking girl, but just stand there and just be a valet.
It's almost ironic because we talked about how they had seemed to drop, her friendship with Ty Conti for all those months. Like, what about they just never went back to it. We weren't saying make her a heel and like, I mean, come on.
I mean, it's not terrible to have them together as heels, but just don't like her as like the, the whatever. What is she? The queen, the something slayer or whatever. What is she?
Yeah.
But it's like it's just it's phony. It's bad and should not be done.
Yeah. The Madison Rae Jade Cargill match, was not great. Went too long. Sloppy on both of their parts, I thought. And we have the injury to Chris Statlander, who I think was ranked number 2 in their rankings. And now she's out. She hurt her knee, it sounds like, on the Dark tapings last week. So they acknowledged that backstage. Tony Storm was talking about how, she wants to be a women's champion still with Thunder Rosa, her tag team partner. You can get back to that match or maybe a triple threat. Maybe Britt Baker gets involved because Britt Baker is right there. Athena is like number 3 in the rankings, and she's feuding with Jade. So then you have Tony Storm at number 1, and then Britt's just kind of sitting there at number 2. So maybe a triple threat at All Out with those 3, or maybe they do like a fatal 4-way and they get Jamie Hayter involved. We'll see. There's a lot of directions they could go there. I don't think they're going to do a straight singles rematch from like what they did at Forbidden Door, though. You got to imagine Britt Baker's going to be on All Out. So
sure. And again, we were talking about the women's division on our Facebook group not long ago, or earlier this week, and a couple things about the Jade match with Madison Rae. People don't want to see Jade sell. I think it takes away from her aura, and her matches just shouldn't go that long. I mean, she could sell a little bit, but then she just comes back and gets the win. And I think she should be the world champion. I agreed with, I think we were all pretty universal in that discussion. Jade Cargill feels like just a much bigger star than Thunder Rosa does right now. It should be, I think they need to do something with the titles, flip them somehow. Because she should be the world champion.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if she can't do long matches. People don't want to see her long matches. People don't want to see Goldberg in long matches. I hate when people go, well, can they work a 20-minute match? Why? They got over not doing that.
I mean, she was, like some of the offense she was taking, she was out of position and it looked sloppy. You could tell. I mean, she's still new to the business, but she doesn't need to be taking those moves either, to your point. So, yeah. Let's see. Anything else on Dynamite we want to hit?
I would just say, really the only thing I truly find offensive is whatever they're doing with Luchasaurus, how he's still, comes out to his new bad guy entrance and he's got the all black and yet he's on Team Jungle Boy. I just don't understand any of that. He was so good as a heel.
Yeah, I liked him as the Tyson Tomko 2022 version.
And it just made so much sense to prolong, the eventual Jungle Boy and Christian match, to have Jungle Boy go through Luchasaurus to get there. So that entire thing still bothers me, which maybe they're still playing to that because Luchasaurus came back and beat up a bunch of security guys and Pat Buck, and apparently that upset Jungle Boy a little bit, but who knows?
Which was weird. Like,
yeah,
we see like AEW officials get their ass kicked all the time, but somebody put their hands on Pat Buck, and my God, we were ready to call the local authority.
Yeah.
So the one other thing I want everybody to keep an eye on is what they do with Ricky Starks going forward, because obviously a lot of us think he has a very high ceiling, but I don't see him getting into like even a TNT, title shot anytime soon, or the title picture, regardless of which one, anytime soon. That plan seems pretty clear with a handful of guys to get there. And you don't want him off TV for a prolonged amount of time in fear of, losing any of the momentum they're starting to build with him. So I'm just curious as to what they do with him and what, the long-term plans are.
I mean, I assume it's just a feud with Hobbs, right? And he might put Hobbs over very well at the start, because you're right. You're coming out of the pay-per-view, no matter if it's Punk or Mox, you're gonna have two babyface singles champions. And so you're right. Starks is not going to ascend into either of those spots. So my thought, I mean, maybe he loses the first, it's a couple match series where he puts Hobbs over, that delays, and that's probably the play.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he can beat up QT Marshall a few times. Great wrestler.
Big Factory fans here on this podcast. Yeah.
They need to heat up a Go-Go again. He's just standing there.
Yeah.
What have they done to Nick Camaroto? What does that look?
Not great. All right. Speaking of not great, because I have a feeling not going to be real high on this, but let's shift to the other major wrestling promotion here in North America. Let's go to WWE. Let's go to the Triple H regime. He is now not quite 2 weeks into, like he took over before SummerSlam, but everybody said SummerSlam's direction was mostly set, and they kind of looked at that Monday after SummerSlam as kind of the reset. This is where he can start blank slate, move forward. And so at this point, we're 2 Raws in, 1 SmackDown in, and I wanted to get Justin and Kyle's take on the Triple H regime and how do you grade him so far? I'm not going to actually ask you to give him an actual grade like we do on the pay-per-view post shows, but I mean, what do you think? What's your general consensus? Do you feel more excitement watching the show? Are you higher on the WWE's future now that Paul Levesque is in charge? I know Kyle's a lot of thoughts on this, so I'm going to go to Justin first. And what are your thoughts on WWE now that he is in charge of creative?
Well, I wish I could say, what are they going to do when they run out of pops? But I think the bigger question is, what do you do when the guys you're bringing in don't get pops?
Yeah. I have a similar point, Justin, in my notes. What does it say? Well, first, the first point before we get to that is, so bringing these people back that he's choosing to bring back, the Karrion Crosses, the Dexter Loomises, the Top Dollar, bringing these types back clearly says something about where the Triple H Vince relationship was, at least professionally, when these fellas were getting the old heave-ho, right? I mean, it's obvious Triple H was not in favor of those people getting released.
Yes.
If, within minutes of him getting the reins, he's trying to bring them back. So, but what does it say that he's bringing back people that no one wanted? Like AEW didn't want these people. Apparently, no one else wanted them. I mean, maybe Triple H told certain people, "Hey, just hold tight. I'm going to be coming into power." Because I mean, it is just, again, I joke. It's just so strange that that right after him and Stephanie seem to really be on the outs of the power structure in the company. That all of a
This
sudden
news breaks. Yeah.
this news breaks and they're in power. That is so weird. I really hope Hunter and Stephanie get to the bottom of who leaked that stuff. That really, somebody needs to find that out, man. Who
We'd
did
feel
that?
real bad if they didn't. So
Yeah. So, um, I don't know. What do you guys? I mean, guys think? And I know what certain people, the bad faith actors, are going to say, but I want to hear what you guys say first.
So I'm going to be completely honest. Yeah, I watched SummerSlam. We covered that. I didn't really watch any Raws until this past one. It's like, all right, I got to check it out. People I think I trust on Twitter seem to be liking the product. And so I fired it up, and there does seem to be a little bit more connectivity from week to week. And maybe part of the reason why I didn't mind what I was starting to watch on Monday was some of the video packages kind of telling you what was going on. Now, they can't be doing that every week. And especially for the people who are tuning in every week, unlike me, I thought it was nice because it's like, oh, hey, this is what's been going on. All right, great. Let's continue. But as the show went on, I found myself fast forwarding more and more. It's like, oh, let's see what's coming up next because I'm not really interested in this. And eventually, the thing that killed my interest is the thing that, from what Triple H has said, is not going to change. And that's the camera stuff. That's the production. I just cannot get over that. That is annoying and headache inducing.
yeah, I think he's probably going to get rid of Dunn eventually, but I just don't know why they didn't do it right away. They got people working on that production that can take over. Like it's just universally panned how bad the show is produced with all the camera cuts. It's not in style anywhere else in television to produce and direct like that. Yet they still do it. This is something from like almost 20 years ago. That was like the style, the quick cuts, the shaky camera and stuff. I remember when I was majoring in electronic media briefly in college, and this is like 03, 04. That was like, I remember our teachers talking about that. I didn't like it then. Like, oh, this is the trend right now. Here we are almost 20 years later. This guy thinks it's cool. We got to keep shooting everything like that. Nobody likes it. It's so bad.
WWE hasn't changed in 20 years. We always talk
Exactly.
about it. There you go. Who blinks first, by the way? Oh, go ahead, Justin.
I was just going to say, and also speaking of Dunn, there's plenty of producers out there who can hang Trump 2020 flags on the production trucks, not just
after the election. After the election too, evidently. That was after the election. He had that up backstage at or was that in Tampa where they were filming at the time? Boy,
yeah, but it was funny though. Like, Sean Ross Sapp's report was like, oh, Vince may not have even have known because he was like during the height of COVID, he was kind of sequestered, I guess, because they didn't want him getting sick. But yet it comes out today about this $5 million. There's another $5 million that people are scratching their heads over for Vince. Where did that go? To old Big Banter Don himself.
Yeah.
So
my thoughts are just that I sense like a little bit more energy on the shows. I do. It's not enough to energize me to watch every minute of those broadcasts right now. Like I don't feel they're putting some focus on some different people. Or like Ciampa, but like, we never thought Ciampa was going to beat Bobby Lashley. They could have a competitive match and stuff, I guess, and that'll help his standing. But, like I looked at some of the other stuff that Hunter has done. And as you mentioned, Kyle, like the people he's brought back, Dexter Loomis, I don't know who that excites. I feel people need to pump the brakes on it. They're just over the top. Oh, this is the turning point for the company. Like, let's wait and see, because as you said, Justin, when the pops run out, what do you do? Because I mean, this guy was very much booking NXT at the end as just pop after pop, short-term things, never any long-term growth for NXT. Then he was out of power. He was basically booking to do ratings against AEW week to week, and NXT suffered for that. And so even just like match finish wise, like talking about what happened with Liv Morgan at SummerSlam. I know they have producers going over this stuff, agents backstage and stuff, but it's all still got to go through Hunter. And that finish of that match between Liv and Ronda should have been axed. So I don't think that he's done a top tier job He's changed some things a little bit, so I got to give him credit there, but like I can't get excited yet. I hope I can eventually, because as we always say, it's a lot more fun to do a podcast when the WWE's hot. I'm not really feeling that yet though. Kyle.
Well, let's go back to what we talked about at SummerSlam, our review of that show. I believe it was Justin that made the analogy with the nice house and the dog poop, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And outside of there being none of that real egregious stuff, the dog poop, if you will, it really doesn't seem that different, the show. There is a renewed enthusiasm. I agree. I mean, okay, fine. The referees are getting called by their names. We're saying the word wrestler. The announcer aren't getting yelled at. But like, you're just getting rid of things that were really horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not like it's necessarily better. It's just sort of like you're moving it back to zero, essentially, out of the negative.
That is the stuff that never should have been the case.
Yeah, that's not the stuff that made WWE unwatchable for the past 3 years or however it's been.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not going to put any asses in seats. I mean, hearing these referees, oh fuck, that's not going to. I mean, that's not going to. It's just things that people who review the show will harp on. Again, there aren't like the really horrible segments. There is some connectivity, as Justin mentioned, but there were long. People are acting like there was never a fucking long match on Raw before 2 weeks ago. Stop it. Okay, there was like a 45-minute 3-way tag match back in February. You can watch.
Yeah.
There's been plenty of long matches under Vince McMahon. I mean, it just the Triple H fellatio just seems to be a little much. By the way, I dare you to put that in the YouTube description, Ryan. When I said, what are we talking about on the show this week? Pump the brakes on the Triple H fellatio or what? Okay, but I want to talk about something else because people may accuse us of being hypocritical on something.
Oh, who would ever do that?
Well, the bad faith actors, and I can already see the tweet in my head that we're going to see. It'll probably be written by someone real dumb like Ryan Satin, right? It'll go like this, okay? IWC, we want WWE to push new people. Triple H, here's Karrion Kross and Dexter Lumis. IWC will not them. Yeah, you fucking idiot. When we say new people, we want them to be good.
Not the people associated with the decline of NXT.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
But you know that tweet's coming from somebody.
Yeah.
Pardon me if I spit on the camera. But and again, not to be hypocritical. You do have to be careful about too many debuts at once. Just take a look at AEW earlier this year. They had too many.
Mm-hmm.
We're objective. We were talking, God, we're like, when you just keep debuting people, none of them really get over. It's just like you're conditioning the crowd to be like crack addicts to see someone new, and they're just popping because it's someone new. They don't really value that person or their journey. So even though the WWE television is stale as 6-year-old bread, they need to be careful about that. Ryan, you brought up Liv Morgan's babyface troubles.
Mm-hmm.
That's same old. Babyface is getting turned on because they're booked incompetently. You mentioned Ciampa. Okay, we've got some fresher faces on the program, getting longer matches. Him, Ford, and Dawkins. But what do they all have in common? They're losing.
Yep.
Still. And here's something that scares me. A couple weeks ago, I'm watching the program, and Seth Rollins, he made mention that he's going after Roman Reigns. And the crowd kind of popped, and I was like, oh, dear God, no. But I think that's the direction that you see Rollins. He's beating Ford and Dawkins. I could see that being a top of the card direction for the fall, Rollins and Reigns.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if Reigns is going to keep the title, I guess it doesn't excite me, but I don't give a shit about Seth Rollins if he loses either. So there's that. But yeah, I don't think the show feels that totally different. Especially, I mean, if Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns, it's a match Vince McMahon would have put on top.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned a lot of things there too that, like with Street Profits, Montez Ford is a heel. I mean, probably not the direction that I would go. Triple H is leaning into that. I mean, maybe he'll be a world-blowing, blow the world away as a heel, but boy, I would make that guy a babyface personally.
Question about the Street Profits for both of you.
Yeah.
Instead of having them feud, would you prefer them be broken up in the draft?
I think I want to see a feud.
I think I'd rather do the feud. Yeah.
Yeah.
It feels like a cop-out to do the draft.
I mean, that I get that when it comes to somebody like the Dudley Boys who had been together for like 15 years or however long it had been at that point. But with this, I mean, these guys, they need a little bit extra juice to get them over. And that could be a feud.
Plus, does the WWE audience buy that the draft will split them up? Because look what they did with the New Day.
That's exactly
you know.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the draft stinks, but we know that. Although, hopefully, Triple H will at least take it seriously. I don't think Vince McMahon really understood the concept of a draft.
Yeah.
I don't think he really got it.
Yeah. I will say, like, I'm more confident in Triple H than Vince. I mean, you've heard all the stories coming out. Not that I'm, like, super confident in him. This is a low bar. And Kyle, you've talked about this, I think, in our Facebook group or in text with us that, like, has anyone ever walked into a job with a lower bar? Like, he just has to be merely competent and everyone's going to be like, God, Triple H is doing such a great job, because it was so bad before he took over. Yeah. So I do have more confidence, not saying a lot, than I did in Vince, who apparently was forgetting people's names and, matches that had happened on backstage. I think we've alluded to that in the past months ago on the show that we had heard that. And that's been being reported now in recent weeks. We said that months ago that he didn't even know the roster. So, I mean, you can only go up from there. But I don't think the product's like turned a corner personally.
But it's something to watch here. And again, people are going to call us hypocrites. Okay. But the story of 2022 is that while I haven't liked the WWE, like the core WWE audience seems to be more into WWE than they were in the last few years. And I don't know if it's because like the dissenting voices now have AEW, so they don't go to WWE live events or what, but it was very clear. And the audience has grown a little bit, right? This year, the ratings are up, or at least have stabilized. And it's going to be interesting if those people who were happy with this product under Vince McMahon, how are they going to take to Triple H bringing all these people? I know this, I mean, I don't even know who this person was. It was just a comment. I saw someone was making fun of him. It was a pretty dopey looking account. But someone's like, Karrion Kross, he was cut. That means he's no good. I mean, these people exist, and they tend to watch the WWE. I mean, look, the SmackDown audience, we were joking last time we did the watch along. No one on my timeline was watching that show, but yet it's the most watched wrestling show every week. So, I mean, do these people want all these new names? I think Triple H, there's a fine line to walk where it's like, yes, obviously everyone wants the egregious shit to be erased. But I think there's a lot of people who don't want the boat rocked that much.
Yeah. So
it'll be interesting. How do you feel about this Defiend coming back?
Yeah, that was gonna close with this topic because there's been a report out from Fightful Select today on this, and they believe that the possibility of Bray Wyatt coming back is much better now that Vince is out. Apparently, Vince really didn't like Bray Wyatt, and he and his circle went out of their way to criticize him. Like there was loud disagreements backstage, and the stories about like Bray being hard to work with and having a bad attitude, those stories apparently all originated from Vince's inner circle. Like they fed those stories, and that WWE talent themselves don't back that up at all, that was the case. So that came from Vince personally. So Kyle, maybe you side with Vince McMahon on that one. That he didn't think Bray Wyatt was very good. Triple H is higher on Bray Wyatt, so now the belief is that he could be on his way back.
Bray Wyatt, in his most recent incarnation, to me is a metaphor for the modern WWE. Has his fans, but I think it's shit. I mean, I don't know what else to say, man. I mean, that was some of the Fiend was responsible for some of the worst television I have ever seen in pro wrestling, dude. Mm-hmm. I mean, that shit he was doing with Alexa Bliss was as bad as anything I have ever seen on a wrestling television program. And if he thinks that's good, then he's an idiot. I don't know what else to say. I mean, I don't mean to like hurt anyone's feelings here, but I mean, that shit was terrible.
Yeah.
My only thought is if he's going to come back, I prefer it to be on WWE, not AEW.
Well, I don't think they had really any interest in him.
Mm-mm.
As I know, like initially there was some contact, but not much, and I don't think they ever really seriously thought about bringing him in. So what does that say too?
And that was my original point. Who's Triple H bringing back? The people that
People
AEW didn't want. And to
yeah,
be blunt, I don't really want.
yeah.
I mean, I don't think I ever said AEW should run out and grab Karrion Kross or Dexter Loomis or Top Dollar. They're going to like reform Hit Row without the good person. That's an idea.
I mean, one guy that's probably going to be coming back that I wouldn't mind seeing back is Johnny Gargano. Like, I think he is like a lock for WWE now. If there was ever any question where he was going to go with Hunter in charge, him and Candice are going to be back in WWE. I would be shocked if they are not, because we've said this before. Like, he is a guy, that's his dream job. You can see him becoming an agent someday, becoming a trainer someday, and he'll be perfectly happy doing that. And, that's what he wants. That's what he should seek out. And I mean, I said when he became free that I didn't really want to see him in AEW anyways, because I didn't think he was different enough from what they already had. Like a lot of guys his size that are really good workers. But he was a guy. I mean, we've said he had a great babyface NXT run, but to the point about not being confident in Triple H, perhaps, what did they do with Johnny Gargano in NXT towards the end?
Turn him heel.
One of the worst decisions.
Also very bad. Yeah, that was also Index and all that shit with Austin. That was real bad. I mean, I don't think Gargano's going to be a top of the card player. No. I want to see them honestly just reunite DIY and them to be an awesome babyface tag team. Maybe have them beat the Usos or something like that. Look, the bottom line is they do need some new people on those shows. Because it's funny how we've, I think about that Vince McMahon quote from earlier this year. Remember, he's like, maybe we need to release some more people and give them there. And I was like, and at the time, we're like, what an asshole thing to say that was. But like, I kind of see us thinking in the sense that like AEW is the one with the bloated roster now. Mm-hmm. And WWE needs some warm bodies. They need new. I mean, for God's sake, man, Raw this week ended with AJ Styles versus The Miz in 2022. That is dire.
Yep. It's like I'm saying, that's not going to keep me tuned in for hour number 3.
Can I just...
There was no star power on Raw, I felt. Like, none.
The one rumor that does bum me out, I was really hoping to see Sasha go on to AEW, but the rumor mill's making it sound like, her and Naomi are heading back to WWE, which would be a real bummer to me.
Yeah.
But gosh darn, doesn't that women's tag team tournament look great?
Yeah, not good. Not good at Kyle's face. Says it all. I mean, after it's over, then obviously you're going to have a confrontation with those two probably coming back. And it's going to be like, well, what the hell was the point of the tournament then? Here they are.
A lot of not over women. A lot of matches that sound very bad.
Yeah. But I mean, that's kind of state.
I think they misspelled Dewdrop on the graphic too.
So there's going to be people coming back. Maybe not the greatest. Maybe not the people that would excite some people the most. But, the Fiend, Kyle will pop. He'll be happy.
Yeah. I mean, they need new people, for God's sake. But, by the way, Frank, here you go. Where's he at, by the way? That's a guy that Triple H should push.
Yeah.
I said, I'll take back everything negative I said about Triple H if he lets him put the weight back on. Calls him Walter again.
And give him the name back. Yeah. Just have him come out and cut a promo. Like, they wanted to call me Gunther? What a stupid ass name. Yeah. So, I mean, hopefully as the fall progresses and we move closer and closer to WrestleMania season, they up the ante a little bit. But I just cannot say that I am very excited right now. But at least there's been some change.
Yeah.
Anything else you guys want to hit on? Because we are out of our agenda, I think.
I think we're pretty good.
So next week, finally, after months and months and months and months of delay, Top Rope Nation will bring I just saw this chat from Jesse. Hold on. I'll come back to that topic in a second. But Jesse says, I couldn't get through this without laughing. Is there more distance between Sasha, Naomi, and the women's tag team division, or between Sasha and the people who bought a photo op in Chicago? Did you guys see those pictures? How ridiculous was
It
that?
looked pretty silly, but I mean, I wouldn't want to take a picture with some of those smelly people either.
Yep.
Well, don't do the event then. I mean, God, what they charge for those pictures too, that's terrible.
Roots
So
of fight, Adam Paul.
Yeah, Justin Shearer's Roots of Fight. The whole Bret Hart line there is awesome. All right, so next week, what we're going to do is bring back a fantasy draft. The last one we did, I believe, was the best TV matches of all time. We did this around the time of the Kenny Bryan match last fall. Friend from the Torch, Zach Haydorn, was on with us on that one. Next week, we're doing a fantasy draft. There's a vote for it right now on Patreon. It's down to either the best matches from Macho Man Randy Savage or the best tag teams of all time. But either way, we're going to be doing a fantasy draft. They're always popular with the listeners. Should be a lot of fun. We've got a great guest lined up for that one. Stay tuned. You'll find out real soon, but someone you're not going to want to miss. It'll be a lot of fun having him on the show for the very first time. And that will be coming out next week. So we'll drop on the podcast feed on Friday. This one we're not going to do live because with the fantasy drafts, I do some production stuff after the fact, like on the video stream, put in pictures of the matches and stuff. It's just too hard to do live because I don't know what matches people are going to select or tag teams they're going to select. So we're going to be recording that one early in the week. It will actually drop early for patrons. So Patreon supporters will probably get that show 48 hours early. So if you don't want to wait until next Friday, you can get next week's show on Wednesday by becoming a Patreon supporter. But as I said, you're not going to want to miss it. It's going to be a really good time. So that's coming down the line. In the meantime,
when are we cutting off the voting here? Because I got to do my studying
real
here.
soon. I think probably tomorrow. Yeah, because we need time to prepare. And then our vote. Then our vote's going to be up for the next vote will be on classics for the end of the month. For August top rope.
How's that looking? We could talk about this off air.
We got nominations, but no
voting. I have a lot of
yet.
questions for you. Okay.
All right. We'll talk off air on that. But there'll be another Patreon vote right after that. But yeah, this one for the draft is either going to be Randy Savage or best tag teams. It's real close between those two. So if you're a Patreon supporter and you haven't voted, do so real soon because I'm going to be cutting off the voting.
Best WWE tag teams or best tag teams, period?
Just period.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Open it up. So that's what's coming next week. And then we'll be getting ready for SummerSlam, All Out. We'll be getting ready for Clash at the Castle on the horizon as well. So got some big shows lined up.
And we'll talk about this off air as well. I got 2 Top Rope Nation extra ideas already planned.
There you go. Another Patreon exclusive show.
One person doesn't even know I'm going to invite him. It's going to be real awkward when he can't do it.
Well, those are always can't miss. Top Rope Nation Extra, Top Rope Nation Classics, our bonus shows on Patreon, closing in on 100 bonus shows for our Patreon supporters. So sign up, click the link in the broadcast description, and we will be talking to all of you next week. Have a good weekend. Take care, everybody.